properly appropriated fundraising allied with pragmatism is generally what saved these animals, not just a lot of tears, often crocodile ones. If you think just going to take a photograph and write something about this was my calling, this was my moment, and some sanctimonious bilge pimped on Instagram or something, if you think that makes you a conservationist, yeah, fine. But anyone with a pulse knows better. With any animal that is vulnerable or persecuted or endangered, if you make it valuable to people that live around it and they feel that value, the animal has a future. The word conservationist is a bit like explorer or adventurer, and there's no qualifications required. They see someone in that, they're not thinking he's raising money for lady mud wrestlers in need. He's raising for an animal we know is endangered.
Our guest today is somewhat of a legend. This man's age begins with a 6. His mental age has always been under question. He has had significant parts of his body reconstructed in his relentless pursuit of justice for wildlife. Many think parts of his mind too. He is outspoken in almost everything and has the correct opinion on virtually any topic, from trafficking wildlife species, the best English cricket all-rounder, and the top 20 movies of all time, as well as the 10 most corrupt presidents ever. It's a trait that has landed him in hot water over the years, and he's not welcome in some countries. He treats that as a badge of honor. Underneath everything, though, is a giant heart with a huge desire to conserve and protect wildlife, to get involved, get his hands filthy, and physically do something tangible that makes a difference. He's been at the forefront of pioneering conservation efforts in Kenya, starting a small camp 26 years ago that has now grown into one of the most recognizable and renowned brands in Kenyan tourism, supporting thousands of livelihoods and helping to literally conserve and expand wild spaces. Through sheer will, he has raised over £750,000 for various wildlife conservation efforts, as well as for schools, water sanitation, natal clinics, and combating the abomination of female genital mutilation, putting his body, and frequently his career, on the line to do so, completing over 50 marathons dressed in a life-size tiger suit, all to raise money to aid the conservation of Bengal tigers. He also despises meetings over 6 minutes long, so this is a rare treat. It really is a pleasure to welcome Paul Goldstein onto the podcast. Thank you, Paul.
Welcome.
What was it about tigers that first brought you into trying to conserve and protect them specifically?
I think there wasn't... People often ask me, what's your favorite animal? Is it a Bengal tiger? No, I don't have favorites. I don't think we can have favorites. When people say, I love animals, I love this or I love that, this is my favorite, it's not a law. And consequently, you can't save an animal by saying, oh, I've raised money for tigers. Well, you haven't actually raised them and sort of gone over and handed them cash. People become very emotive, and, properly appropriated fundraising allied with pragmatism is generally what saved these animals, not just a lot of tears, often crocodile ones. When I saw my first tiger, it had a profound effect in 1998, whenever it was. It did, lying in the middle of the road, and just massive 250 kilogram male. And I was there for, I don't know, about a week. It was really the only really good sighting I had. And I remember thinking, it's ridiculous. It's impossibly beautiful. It really is. No animal should be made that gorgeous. Really, when you think of poor old run-of-the-mill animals running around. I know I'm looking at this in an anthropomorphic manner, but sort of warthogs running around and water bucks and things. And people say, oh, they're lovely, they're beautiful. No, they're not. No, not compared to a Bengal tiger. Of course they're not. I suppose the seminal moment was when I went back 6-8 months later, and I immediately asked about this big male, and you feel that curious sort of ludicrous humanizing ownership, and I was told it had been poached, and that probably at that moment its pelt was on the back of somebody in China, its teeth God knows where, it's I don't know, it's blood somewhere else, it's bone crushed and made into wine, whatever. And it lit a fire that, as you can tell from my expression, is still burning. And it's I often think people are fueled by many different characteristics. Sometimes just one. Some people it's love, some it's companionship. Mine it's rage. It always has been, and it makes me an extremely unpleasant person. That's the dog drinking you can hear, by the way. I have no rage towards a gorgeous Labrador like that. No, but mine is rage, and it always has been. And it does make me irascible and difficult to be around. I understand that. But the thought of a world without Bengal tigers is just wrong. And also, when you think you've got anything from rugby clubs to football clubs to golfers to huge petroleum companies that use the name, and I'm not sure they really put their hands in their pockets. And of the many pathological hatreds I have, I think keyboard warriors and people who just cry about it not doing anything are pretty high on the list.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about that. A lot of people talk themselves up as conservationists. They might go and snap a photo and say that they are wildlife conservationist. It's certainly a bio on a lot of social media profiles. What would you say to that? I'd
spit on them, actually. Sorry, we're way beyond that. If you think just going to take a photograph and write something about this was my calling, this was my moment, some sanctimonious bilge pimped on Instagram or something, if you think that makes you a conservationist, yeah, fine. But anyone with a pulse knows better. It's nonsense. It really is. And to think that your imagery or whatever, your abominable prose is going to make the slightest bit of difference is just utterly delusional. I've always said, if you make, it doesn't matter, tigers happen to be this particular métier, but if you make, with any animal that is vulnerable or persecuted or endangered, if you make it valuable to people that live around it, and they feel that value in their pocket, the animal has a future. And that's always been the way, my formula, how I go about it is perhaps to many people bizarre. But in about, I can't remember when it was, but I ran a marathon in London Marathon, and I ran what I thought was a decent time for a guy in his, however old I was. And I came in knowing the bank of photographers were there and knowing they always send you. They're pretty sharp on that. And I pulled the big celebration and everything. When I got the photograph, there was somebody dressed as Big Ben behind me in a massive costume. And that, I suppose, was what provided the idea, and it sort of incubated. And then in 2009, I just thought, I've got to do something more. I'd raised a bit of money here and there for various things. I'd run for Save the Rhino. I did a London Marathon, raised thousands for them, not in the suit. And so, that was the thought. And the suit was based on a photograph I took 20 years ago, in 2005, in Bandhavgarh, of a particular female. And the wonderful lady, Liz, who put the suit together, came out to India. I made sure she saw one in the wild. And that started it. And I was due to run London Marathon. I didn't know whether I was going to finish it wearing something like that. And the simple story was, when I came out, I finished, and I hadn't left it all on the course, not even close. And I'd realized the reaction. I realized people got it. And straight away, they see someone in that. They're not thinking he's raising money for lady mud wrestlers in need. He's raising for an animal we know is endangered. And so it went on from that. And so the following year, I thought I've got to do more. If I'm asking people to put their hands in their pockets and be generous, and goodness me, people have been extraordinarily generous, we have to do something different. So I think I did 4 the next year, or did I? Yeah. And then the next year I ran Brighton, and then jumped on a plane, did Kilimanjaro, came back and did London. That was awfully hard. Not just awful.
So you did London after hiking up Kilimanjaro?
Did Kilimanjaro, came straight down, jumped on a plane, arrived London, did London. Yeah, that was, and then the following year, what did I do? The following year, I said, that's it, that's enough.
I just can't put myself through this anymore again. That's it, over and out, the tank sector.
up. And then people started getting in my face saying you can't call yourself. Don't forget the word conservationist is the word conservationist is a bit like explorer or adventurer, and there's no qualifications required. And people were calling me a fraud. And I think perhaps with reason. Said, you've made a lot of noise about this. Why are you stopping? And so I ran a couple, and I really messed myself up. And so I was off running for a year. And when I had my Achilles completely redone, I'd done some awful things to that. But then 16, I was strong again. And so I did a London, and I thought, okay, all right, come on. You've got other things to do now. And I didn't stop me fundraising, but for other animals and other areas, the FGM stuff we did, the water harvesting, all of these. And then I kind of got this idea of doing the Everest Marathon. It was pushed back, obviously, because of COVID. And then, I really butchered myself there. It was, just doing Everest Base Camp is hard. But I think one of the things that I love Nepal, I love Nepali people, and seeing some of the porters walking up with what they have on their backs, it was utterly humbling. And it's like, Paul, get a hold of yourself. But look, I think it's the only marathon I've ever done where I've gone an hour and I haven't even done 2 kilometers. So that took a long time. And it's a brutal marathon. It is. Of course it's brutal. You're going downhill quite a lot of it. You're going from base camp where you have 2 nights. We weren't going to fail. They have a cutoff at 16 that if you don't make it by a particular time, you have to find your own accommodation on the mountain. It's pretty harsh. But anyway, we made that, and it was satisfying.
Bonkers, quite frankly.
Absolutely crazy.
This ludicrous exercise, I'm going to call it that.
Why on earth would a man in his late 50s be wanting to do this? Well, because during the course of his marathon running life, he's raised thousands and thousands of pounds for tiger conservation.
These kids, like tigers, are worth a lot more alive. Thank you. It'll never be perfect, but you have hundreds and hundreds of school children now who are reaping the benefits of not only Bengal tigers, but also your generosity. It might kill him, quite frankly, because he's not a young man anymore.
Running a marathon is one thing, running it with a costume like that, or indeed like that, wow, that's incredible. Is that the tiger that came to tea? Well, I tell you what, he's going to deserve a big mug of tea at the end of this marathon.
The whole point of the design was that people concentrated on the suit rather than the miserable runner inside it.
The 2 words, Everest and marathon, should not come together without substantial punctuation.
Are we there yet? Is this a foolish escapade, this caper? Yes, I think it probably is. Is this the most challenging thing I've ever done? Yes. Do people look at me with that look, what on earth are you doing at your age? Yes, they do. It's time to run and walk and scramble, and I suppose crawl 26.2 miles down from base camp. Die, drink a champion. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Happy tiger.
Let me see. Wave. Yeah, good girl. Mate. Well done, mate. Too good. Too good. Yeah, congrats. Well done, all of you. God.
So, yeah, you come back from that and you feel, I suppose, proud. Yeah, I suppose a bit proud, but also the message got to a lot of people. And then, of course, you go away. 23 came along and 24. And then I thought, actually, do you know what? You know, if I can still move, if you look at, watch a marathon, or if you watch people training, or if you watch the Paralympic Games, things like that, you imagine what some people wake up with. Yeah, I did this Achilles as well. The right Achilles got completely reconstructed. But last year I said, no, come on. And I had this idea to go, I'm going to walk 25 marathons in 25 days, which sounded good in my head. And then, it's about a team. I had a good team. And we went from Tigerton, tiny little hamlet in northern Scotland, all the way down to Tiger Bay. And it touched a lot of people. Yeah. It really did. But it absolutely, oh God, I was completely compromised by it, because some people said it's easier to run a marathon. Well, it's easy to maybe run one, but to have to get yourself up each morning for that, having really put yourself through it, and to be walking 10, 11 hours a day, and some of them are very hilly. Of course, you're in the lakes, and yeah, so, but people liked it. It was a different campaign. I mean, my first campaign was always called Worth More Alive, because they are. Yeah. A tiger butchered by a poacher and put on a slab and sold piecemeal to those despicable, insidious dealers in China and Southeast Asia. It may be worth, I don't know, $50,000 to a few people. But a live one with all of its ancillary benefits in a national park, maybe a female that has 3 or 4 litters, it can be worth as much as $70-80 million. When you think from the, I don't know, everybody associated with tourism, to the restaurants, to the guy cutting hair, to the rangers, it's worth a fortune to tour operators. And so I felt it can't just be tigers. You want this, if you're doing it in the UK, you've got to involve people. So the 2 Legs for 4 campaign came up, and it is just for Chris Packham said to me, well, what about birds? I said, look, just for once, this is just 4-legged animals, there's enough. And he's been so supportive and a real inspiration he has. And so it worked. So we're doing it again, except longer this year. It's, people said, well, 25 marathons was rather messy, 1,052 kilometers. Why don't you do 1,000 miles? And I said, well, no. And they said, what about the song? And I said, oh, I do see what you mean, the famous Proclaimers song, I can walk 500 miles and I can walk 500 more. So we're splitting it up. So 2, and it's going to go from North Wales all the way across the Dales, Matlock, all the way through to the gorgeous East Anglian coast, finishing the southeast, and then it's going to go from, have a break, you go from Southend to Land's End. So all those bedwetting southern Jesses who said, oh, we didn't want to do it in Scotland, it's too far, you didn't give us enough notice. Right, come and join us. You got some of the greatest coastal walks in Europe. A lot of up and down. Sounds good in my head.
It often seems to you these days.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're right.
You've just talked about how difficult it was to do 25 in 25.
I know it's 1,000.
Having second thoughts?
No. I think there was one day where I got a shin splint. I mean, if you've ever had a shin splint, they just hurt. All right, let's just leave it there. And I was going so slowly. I just think this, and that was depressing. So what do? Drugs.
Yeah.
I just took handfuls of painkillers and eventually got over it. Strangely, I was probably at my strongest at the end of the whole thing last year, but that's no guarantee. This aging body, and it takes some punishment.
What kind of break are you giving yourself this time?
Well, I've got
500 miles and then a break.
Yeah, I'm going to Alaska. I'm guiding on a small boat charter. I've got a dozen photographers with me there, so that'll be good. I'll do some swimming as well, cold water swimming. That'll be also good, and then back for the rest of it. So we're going to be coming through London as well. So yeah, it should be good. But we want lots of people.
How will people find it? Will
they'll see it. 2 Legs for 4. That's the website you look for. Totally. They just had. There's no charge. Yeah. They can do it for their own charity. The only thing you have to do is get the Ordnance Survey app for the day. Yeah. So that's our duty of care as it is. And if you can't follow that, well, frankly, you shouldn't be walking anyway. I mean, some people, there's always someone a day who leads the trek, because there could be just 3 people, there could be 50. And one bloke did it just using a map and compass last year. Massive. Alex, wherever you are, massive respect. So yeah, that's it. But it touched so many people. Yeah. And I recall, you do get a big reaction. Going past a village hall, and there was a class. It was a charity for desperately impaired, or whatever the word is. I'm sorry if I'm using the wrong word. Children and young adults, and they all came charging out, and we were so far behind that day. I was on crutches, and I remember saying, "Guys, we're going to be even later now because I'm not rushing off here." And yeah, just of course, when any charity organization, they really work because of, and it's the same as anti-poaching units. Whenever you get really down about wildlife being persecuted, you look for what I always say, look for the saints. And there are always some. And there was a girl that day, I just remember thinking, you are going to heaven. She was extraordinary, and it affected her. And it affected me, just the tiger being there. Some of the kids were actually afraid of it, maybe of me, I don't know. But and it's moments like that. I remember walking away, and the guys were all, and I said, "You're going to have to give me a few minutes." You can tell now it's affecting me, because I need to get a hold of myself for this, because we've got 13 miles still to walk. But yeah, so, and I think it could really be a big thing this summer. England knocked out of the World Cup. Come and join us.
Oh, well, if you want to find out more about 2 Legs for 4,
yeah, 2 Legs for 4, on the site.
Link is in the in the show notes below, and then if you're watching on YouTube, we'll put a link up to it on the screen now. So obviously, it's not just tigers. You've done a lot of work across the world for leading photographic trips. You've just come back.
Photographic safaris and expeditions. Did you call them trips, Stan?
I did call them
trips to the post office, or to Wetherspoons, or to the diner?
I stand corrected. Thank you. Photographic safaris. Well, you've just come back from Baffin Island, photographing polar bears, minus 30, minus 40.
More, yeah. It was degrees. The coldest I've ever been. I don't know what we're doing to the planet. Well, I think we know what we're doing to the planet. Very late freeze this year. And then it's almost like March got January weather, but this was excessive, and yeah, it was ferocious, and also dangerous cold, because your extremities, frost nip is a very, very real risk. I've had it myself before. When I was with you. It's like you weren't the cause of it, but it's it was. That was extreme. Look, the best places in the world take a bit of getting to. Always, otherwise they're not remote. That's not what attracts us. But this was extreme, and we went to look for some denning bears, and we found some of their dens, but I think they were hollowed, but I think they were still in there. They obviously poked their head out and said, that's enough. No chance. See you in a month. Yeah, I'm going back to sleep. So it's wonderful though. I mean, photographing an Arctic fox coming towards me with my lens hood pretty much filled with snow in minus 50. That's as extreme. And people say, oh, that's amazing. No, it's just frankly foolhardy, and I won't be doing that again. I really won't. The camera kept functioning though. So yeah, that was something. Yeah. I mean, the Nikon ones didn't, obviously. I jest.
It is brutal there though.
Yeah, it's,
it is. That not just getting there, but I mean, actually once you're there, people may look at snow and think it's a soft substance, but when it's hard and it's sea ice, and you're bouncing around on a sled all day, it takes a lot out of you. And it's not a straightforward expedition.
No, it isn't. And you don't so much notice it, and perhaps until you stop. And then it's like, I mean, look, they're comfortable, they're oven tents, but nobody has a shower for 10 days or whatever. That's all fine. And the food is excellent.
You don't need a shower for 10 days. You don't sweat.
No, you don't. Yeah, it really does, that extreme cold. And again, like I was mentioning, the Nepali porters, it's humbling to see those Inuits who don't even wear protection on their face. Yeah. My God, it's terrifying. They are obscenely tough. They really are. And I doff my cap to them.
Hats off, for sure. And the thing is, I think when you're out there on the frozen sea ice and you see these tiny little polar bear cubs, and they are pristine, they're white, this incredible mother, and they're relaxed, they're letting you come in.
Yeah, just getting a glimpse into their world. I mean, people say, oh, should you, the pious brigade will always say, should you do this? Look, okay, maybe we interrupted them for a few hours. That mother's got 1,000 things, more important things to worry about than a few Gore-Tex-clad polar pilgrims seeking an audience. I think the other thing is, I'm very driven as a photographer, not because simply I want to always get better at it. That's all it is. And I do a lot of lecturing, and I know people don't want to see the same photos. And I'm always keen to show them the poor ones, of which there are many, as well as a few that I might even give a 4 or maybe even a 5 out of 10. That's rare. But it's if you want to get photographs that are memorable, or when I judge a photo competition, I always use the same priorities. Number one, originality, and also degree of difficulty, which means pain and hurt involved to get that image. And if you're not hitting those spots, you're just going to be run of the mill. You take very beautiful photographs, and that's fine, but I want to see ambition, and that's what I try to do with my own work. But it is just a photograph. To being there is something much more important.
Well, that's the thing, is at the end of the day, it is just a photo.
Yeah.
But you're there with these incredible wild animals, and polar bears in particular are probably on many people's minds in terms of climate change, in terms of their vulnerable status.
Yeah, it's to me that my anger, or certainly rage, with polar bears is, look, their numbers haven't dwindled that much, but their habits have had to change because of ice, of course, not freezing early enough. They have to hunt seals. So the habits change enormously. So they become scavengers, which obviously brings them into conflict. But also it's the hunting of them and the absolute denial. The fact that Norway has absurd regulations in their waters in Svalbard at the distance you can see them from. Yet you can go into a warehouse in Bergen, 200 or 300 polar bear pelts that can fetch as much as $80,000. So the hypocrisy is just on another level. And the WWF have every chance to do something about this, and they don't. Just as they don't with Rhino. They it's not even tacitly. They actively, they say they acknowledge or they promote trophy hunting. I mean, if this is the WWF, this is the tabernacle of conservation, promoting trophy hunting. I mean, what's their logo? A panda. For 36 years, I've been asking audiences if anyone's ever seen one in the wild. I'm still waiting to see a hand go up. Yeah, I would have given up on pandas, frankly. It may sound ridiculous, but no one's seeing them in the wild. Any ones you see in the zoo, they're rented out by the Chinese for $1 million a time. If that panda isn't having cubs, it's not viable. So I think we need to look very seriously at some of these large establishments. We really do. I mean, that marvelous film, which of course no one will show properly on terrestrial Trade Secret, really undoes the lid on it. My God, or opens the lid on it.
I'd love to watch it. I haven't had that privilege yet.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple of times.
As soon as there's the opportunity, I'll do
yeah, God, it made me mad. But the guy, the producer, I know the producer, he said, this is going to make you mad, Paul. I was incandescent. And it just seems nonsensical. Let's look after them. They're a big enough draw. And the people who make up the rules about where you should sit, really? Come on. It's absurd.
You're talking about Svalbard now.
Yeah. Absurd. Absolutely absurd.
What is it now, 500 metres away
on whatever it is, July the 1st, it's 300 metres because, they know. I mean, as ever, we're not happy till you're not happy.
So what do you think it is about these bigger organisations that stand for something but don't actually seem to
Well,
put their money where their mouth is, guess.
I don't think it's mutually exclusive to charities, or it really isn't. But I think the problem is people lose sight of it, and if you fill your ranks with idiotic marketing, well, sorry for the tautology, but no, get boots on the ground, raise money, spend it wisely. It's pretty simple. Raise it, spend it wisely, account for it, audit it, make it transparent. Let us see what you're doing, please.
If you were in charge, what would you? If you were a dictator in charge of it, what would your
of something like that? Well, firstly, there is a sense of triage. You can't help everything. I'm sorry to say it. That's where we are now. Help the ones that it would be absurd. Secondly, you must be transparent. Every single donor has to know where their money is going. Thirdly, realize it's not a branding exercise. It really isn't. I want to see proper results. I want to see that this money has gone here and these animals have benefit, looking at their numbers, not dubious censuses. I heard the other day that tiger censuses, I think it's that the heads of the municipalities or of the national parks, they're on an incentive to get their tiger numbers up. Okay. So when the census comes round, there's some pug marks, tick. Yeah. Where's some more, tick. Well, that may be the same animals. So I'm very dubious about those. I am. And critically, make it available. Don't make it elitist. Make it available. Every cent counts. Every single cent. It really does. But yeah, don't clutter your offices with froth and frills. Really don't. It needs publicity. I agree, but it needs money. All of these things need money properly spent. Saving wildlife is not a quick fix. And I don't have, as I said earlier, I don't have a steaming love affair with a particular animal. What I do realize is that they are polar bears, Bengal tigers, rhinos, pangolins. They are meal tickets. Yeah. They really are potentially for millions of people. But when it's only benefiting a few, there's your issue.
I mean, I struggle to comprehend that pangolins are one of the most trafficked animals in the world, and yet in 30 years of dedicated searching in the bush, I think I've come across 5 naturally. You've done better than me. I'm yet to see my first pangolin. Yeah, I am. It's just a absolutely crazy stat that they can be so heavily trafficked globally. I mean, not just in Africa. They're just the ones that are coming last.
Why, Dan? Why are they trafficked? Because of their scales. Because they hollow them out, and that has some extraordinary medicinal provenance. Bollocks, it does. Yeah.
So you've just released a book, 9 Lives, talking about the persecution of these species, polar bears, tigers, lions. What drove you to write this book?
Let's be clear. I mean, with publishing, unless you're Dan Brown, nobody makes any money from doing books. But as the job I do, sometimes you do need a solid CV out there, and that's what a book is. However, although I have done it in the past, a long time ago, for this book. The words were much more important, and I'm really pleased and proud that so many people have mentioned this. I mean, look, it had to go past the publisher's solicitors twice, but that's fine. And so I chose 9 animals, 8 that are endangered or vulnerable. And one, I thought it's important to give some optimism there. That's why I went with humpback whales, which is the classic case in conservation that however many years ago it was, their numbers were right down. Yeah. They'd been sort of harvested almost to oblivion. And then they stopped. It was made illegal to hunt them, and their numbers have flourished. Yeah. And who would have thought that if you stop killing something, that they benefit? Well. How does that work? So that's the book. Here's the book. Spookily, by just some disquieting quirk of fate, there's one here. It's actually almost sold out, which is vaguely satisfying. So I think if I would ask anybody to read the chapters, read what I've written about it, please. As I say here, of all the species I've spent time with, the proportion of camera time and observing time is the most imbalanced with the rhino. I'm happy just to watch. However, the view through any sort of precision optic fills me with such rage that photography is secondary, butchered for their horns to boost people's sex appeal. How could they? That's why there's writing. I don't want people to flick through it, much like you're doing now. But it is. I want people to dwell on it. Yeah. That's why I spend a lot of time writing that, to tell a story about the photograph, but also a story about the species and why they are so imperiled.
Yeah, I mean, it is very powerful language that you've put in there. I think if anyone who reads it should come away with that same rage and that same emotion that clearly you feel for all these animals.
Yes, I do. I think it's, as I said earlier, I sometimes had to pull away from typing, saying, Paul, nobody's going to publish this. Take a breath and write it more coherently, because the sort of iron fist in a velvet glove is often so much more powerful than a saber rattling across everything. I do. It is rage when I think of the greed involved with poaching, and the greed involved with selling animal products, the greed involved of exploitation of not only the animals themselves, but often the biodiversity that surrounds them. It sickens me. It seems such an easy win. And when you look at our conservancies in Kenya, I can see the benefit.
I mean, it's crazy. Your first chapter in here deals with lions, and I mean, people may say, well, there's plenty of lions in Africa still.
There really isn't.
They really aren't, are they?
No, lion numbers have dropped massively. Encroachment, human conflict, inbreeding, so many different problems, distemper, all of these things that can affect them. And and yet people think, because they're quite easy to spot, there must be plenty of them. No.
And yet they're still hunted. In large parts of Africa. I mean, we talk about, you mentioned the WWF still supporting hunting as a conservation technique, trophy hunting. Lions would be the number one thing that most people
and they do it in a pen with a bow arrow or something. What did I see the other day? Someone showed me some leopard hunting. A guy is in this ludicrous camouflage in a hide, and there's a carcass of some goat or something up a tree, and a leopard pops up, gets shot out of the tree. Well done, you're desperately brave. No, that hunting fraternity they really do sicken me. And whenever you see justification for it, it's always by those people who like to hunt. They're justifying their slaughter because it brings lots of money. Yeah, your money. So that's all you're doing. You're paying it, and it finances your what you call sport. Look, it's difficult in areas of unendangered species. Somebody has a farm. I remember getting my backside owned by a South African guy who I sighed at his hunting bag as I flew up to Victoria Falls next to him, and he showed me a map. He said, "Listen, I live in the well, he called me a number of choice words first, but he said I live in the low veld." And we can't have cattle there because of rinderpest and whatever it is. But what we do have is many, many, many acres. And people come and hunt a few kudu, warthogs. Some of them will use a taxidermist, whatever. And they pay a lot of money. And look, there's a church here. I remember him showing me on the map. There's 2 schools, a church and a clinic here. None of them would be there. Now, I can't look down through precision optics through crosshairs and shoot a beautiful kudu or something, or it just shouldn't matter whether it's beautiful or not. I couldn't do that, but I think this conversation perhaps merits a place at the table. But that is a million miles from people paying $50,000 to kill a rhino.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, really? To kill a rhino? I just... What sort of person does that, Dan? Any of you out there, what sort of mentality takes joy from that And people will say, oh, look, but anyone who eats meat, So look, can we just keep our eyes on this ball at the moment?
Yeah.
A rhino alive in a conservancy can bring millions for many, many, many years, okay? That's the only conversation that we should be having.
No, 100%. I mean, I think... Obviously, Laura and I grew up in South Africa, and canned hunting was a big thing.
Yeah, I remember. What was it? The Cook Report, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yes, that was despicable, wasn't it?
I mean, there's just so... It feels like hunting is, particularly for the larger predators and the larger game, is just open to corruption, and it's open to there doesn't seem to be a sort of major audit of how it all works, and there seems to be a huge amount that you can just kind of move under the table.
Totally.
To keep it legal. Inverted commas.
Oh, there's all sorts of loopholes. There's all sorts of loopholes. You can still buy trophy goods in the UK, staggeringly. But if you want to know, the desert elephant is not a subspecies of elephant, even though they look a little different with the longer legs, having eked out a precarious existence in the sand for so many years. But they probably number 200, 220, maybe. And their lives are parlous. Of course, they are entirely dependent on an often very fickle rainfall. So each year, hunting licenses are probably $60,000 a pop, granted by the Namibian government to kill 5 breeding bulls. Yeah. I mean, this is just simple mathematics. It just staggers me. And that is just flagrant, blatant, egregious, and despicable, stinking corruption. And the problem is there's big money to be had in poaching. And some people in positions of authority have their noses so far in this trough of financial malfeasance, they can't see the wood for the trees.
Well, I mean, the rhino hunting, or the rhino poaching, I should say, in South Africa is exactly like that.
Yeah.
It's if you take a step back, you sort of struggle to really blame the people who do the actual act of killing the rhino. I mean, these guys are often they brought in.
That's you're good to bring that up, because that's the symptomatic reaction. People, the poachers, just let's throw all our ire and our crocodile tears on the poachers. No. Okay, poacher, it may be ex-forces, maybe ex-what, probably hasn't got a job, whatever. He's given a hunting rifle or a Kalashnikov, whatever it is, and he does that and he's paid $500. I don't know. It's what happens. It's the dealers. Yeah. And it's the absolute ill-education of the people buying this.
It's the syndicates. It's these people who are exploiting really vulnerable people in society who are on the edge of existence, who maybe aren't benefiting from wild creatures and therefore see no attachment to the wild. There's no value in them. So it's a very easy sell, and they may not have anything, but you could give them a little bit of money, which is quite a lot of something for many of these people. And all they have to do is just go and kill a creature that they don't particularly feel much for in the first place. Yeah. But they're the ones who do get found. They're the ones who do get killed. And it's these syndicates, and ultimately it's the Chinese behind that and the Asian markets. But I mean, I watched a film on Netflix a few years ago. It was about the ivory trade in Kenya. I think it was called The Ivory Game.
I saw that program, and they were heroes. The investigating people, they really were. Yeah, no, it was a very, very adult piece of filmmaking. You're right. Yeah, it was, and we need more of those.
Yeah. But it was just eye-opening, not just how it works in terms of the quota system that, people in the Asian markets may say, well, they only have a quota for X number of, there's only so much ivory that can be sold, but there's an entire black market of ivory underneath all of that.
Oh, it's massive.
Where people are able to account for things in a sort of bit of creative accounting sense. That allows them to get away with this and to essentially tick it off of the box that they are, it's all legal.
Multi-million pound industry, and it ain't going away anytime soon. In the time it takes us to do this, probably three elephants have been poached.
Yeah, what was that you said in the book? I think it was in the time it takes me to write this page. Yeah,
something like that.
Which is quite a powerful little stat.
Yeah, and it's just, that's the truth of it.
I mean, rhinos in South Africa, I think, are 350 a year now. That's one a day.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, and that's low, inverted commas. I mean, I remember, I think when I was in university days, it was upwards of 1,500, maybe up to 1,600 in a year. I think that I can't remember which year that was, but
let's just think about this for a second. So the rhinos are found, they mow them down from the rear, obviously, so it's a slow death. They then take a chainsaw to the horn, and they're away, and that carcass is this left on the plains or wherever it is.
When they're taking the chainsaw, it's not necessary that the rhino's dead.
No,
it's
about speed for them. It's like when they take elephant tusk. Don't forget, if the elephant tusk is this long, there's the same again inside the cranial cavity, which they're not going to get at. No, it is. It's an awful thought. Yeah. It really is. I know, and it makes me angry every day, almost every hour.
Paul, you work with local people all over the world. It seems to be something that you're very comfortable with. Why is that?
Firstly, it's a joy. Sometimes it would be pious to say it's a privilege, but yeah, I do. I've never seen colour, and B, I'm fascinated by local cultures, and C, I find particularly in Africa, in all the ridiculous idiosyncrasies that clutter the British workplace just vanish there. You know, I get up earlier than anyone else. I work longer hours than anyone else. They respect that. I respect them. I learn a lot off them. I'll never tell, someone James Nampasso, how to do his guiding. Why would I? Yeah. You know, that's his backyard. He probably won't tell me how to lecture or something, but then there's so much middle ground. We will discuss particular cheetahs or particular leopards or particular elephants for days on end. We will, I don't know, when we're guiding together sometimes and we have a group, it will be competitive in where we want to position the vehicle, just over a single blade of grass that we feel is offending the aesthetic of the photograph. I like it. I really do. Whether it's Inuits in Baffin, whether it's Juan and Roberto in Brazil, I really feel it is sort of privilege, but I've worked damn hard for it. I love that feeling, and I love making, whether it's Maasai, whether it's people in Brazil, India, make them laugh. And, I consider close, almost parts of the family. I really do, and it's a big deal.
It's pretty special when you get that kind of common ground, especially if you come from completely different cultures, but you could find the thing that brings you both
You have
together.
a denominator. Yeah, you absolutely do. And also, your other denominator, apart from you're there to try and find, but you're trying to make it better than anybody else's. That's what, and they know that. And I often think these staff work a little bit harder when I'm in town. I don't know. I get that feeling. That's what I'm told.
I'm sure it's true. Just sticking with local people and different cultures, do you think conservation has been hampered by a dictatorial kind of idea where this is how it has to be done, rather than necessarily involving enough ideas from local communities and local people? Or?
I think, I'm sure there are cases of that. I think the simple problem is, what you can't have is raise a lot of money, build a school or whatever it is, and then they just put their feet up till the next handout. And then what happens is, if, stuff gets vandalized or stolen, there's no longevity. So there's got to be continuity. Also, there's got to be practicality. Yeah. Raising money in developing world, there's often an issue with where the money comes from, that sort of thing. So that's also important. But yeah, completely. You get bullies coming in. That's why I've said it, and I keep saying it, saints. Every now and then you find saints. So every time you get frustrated, remember, go and find those saints. They might be a small anti-poaching patrol in wherever it is. It could be someone running a camp on no wages, but on handouts alone in Zimbabwe somewhere. Yeah, that person exists, by the way. So yeah, saints.
Next time on the Wild Voices podcast, we continue our discussion with Paul Goldstein, focusing specifically on Kenya, starting his Kicheche camps, and photography, with Laura braving one of his infamous photo surgeries. Stay tuned.